Good morning. It's a beautiful Sunday. Thank the Lord for being here. Been a strange couple months. The last couple months as we've been dealing not necessarily with this coronavirus, but more with the response to the coronavirus. And so as I looked at how the response went forward, that it was really a lot of infringement upon our rights. So I decided, since I had free time over the last few months, that I would look at the Constitution and some things like that. I went to public school in the 70s, and I graduated in 1979, and I don't remember a time ever studying the Constitution in school, or the Declaration of Independence, or memorizing the preamble, anything like that. So now this is not an advertisement for Hillsdale College, but they offer a bunch of online courses, so I've been working on it. I'm not done with it yet, but the Constitution 101. And one thing I found out is I'm not really real smart. You know, when you read some of those things, I was thinking about putting Dr. Mitchell on speed dial so I could get some interpretation on some of that. But, you know, even for a basic course like that, it gets into the deep weeds. Like there were Federalists and Anti-Federalists, and the Federalists were really like, they didn't think the Bill of Rights should be in the Constitution because they thought it was inherent with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, that meant that we would have freedom of speech and freedom of religion and all that. But that's not what my testimony is about. But it was just, it's interesting to read and try and figure out what these guys were saying. And I thought it'd be a good idea to have a knowledge of what our founders thought our freedoms and rights should be. And one of the things that, as I realized that these men, as I was saying, that sometimes I don't quite understand what they're trying to say with a sentence or a paragraph, they had a lot of wisdom. And I believe it was godly wisdom. Maybe all of them weren't saved, but they all believed in God. They believed in the God of the Bible, not just a God, but the God of the Bible. And they had that wisdom at the founding of our nation. So that's something that God's been dealing with me about, is we need to have wisdom. We're not going to found a nation, but we need wisdom for our daily lives, for daily decisions. And another area would be that God was just dealing with me about is really listening to godly counsel and the wisdom from our pastor, our leaders. If you've been following along with our reading schedule, then we just this past week read again about Solomon and how the wisest man that ever lived, and how he had that wisdom. But then his son Rehoboam became king after him, and he asked the counselors that were his father's counselors, so King Solomon's counselors, what he should do. Jeroboam and the people of Israel came to him and said, how will you treat us? Are you going to treat us better than your father did, or worse? And he asked what I would consider the wise counselors, the godly counselors, and then he listened to them, and then he asked the counsel of the men that he grew up with, so young guys his age, and they gave him counsel opposite of what the older, wiser men had given him. He followed the young men, and of course that was when Israel was split into Judah and the 10 tribes, and Jeroboam took the 10 tribes, and then there's no longer one nation of Israel. It was two nations then. And so following wrong counsel. So that's an important area in our lives, follow godly counsel. With this situation with the virus, I just wanted to come to church. Let's come to church. Let's go to church. But, Pastor Dameron looked at that and he prayed about it and sought God's wisdom and how we should do things. And, we learned some new terms like the honkalooya and things like that. So, but we have to trust our pastor and follow his wisdom as he follows God. So I'm thankful for that. And, another area, I think, just over the past couple months I've been thinking about it is revival. Of course, we need revival individually. Our nation needs revival. I was with Mr. Brady yesterday, and we were just kind of cracking up because my sisters, I got a baby sister, younger sister, 10 years younger than me, and an older sister, and they're texting, and one sister's all excited. The younger one, they bought a house down in Alabama, and they're going to be moving down there next year, And she's all excited about that. And my sister's texting about, we're going to have a civil war. And this is, well, she lives in Michigan, so you understand. It's a little, So she's texting all this stuff. And so what I do is I could be really kind of mean to my sisters, but I just text a verse, 2 Chronicles 7:14. I just do that. And I said, really, just try and follow that. And, don't worry about civil war and all that stuff, But, so that says, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray. And if you're like Joe Biden, you say, the thing. But, but if that verse talks about revival, it's really up to us what happens with our nation. It's not, I think it's important to vote, and I always vote. And I think it's important to have good people in, and we should support good people. But really, our revival is dependent upon us, and what happens in our nation is dependent upon us. And as you think about it, especially just these last few days, I can't remember the verses exactly, but wow, you see how just in 2 Chronicles, really, if you follow God, boy, he can really change everything. And a lot of the victories with the kings of Judah that had weaker armies and everything else, and they won these great victories. It's God that wins that victory. And then when they don't follow God, he said, because you didn't follow me, here's what you're not going to have victory over such and such. And I'm sorry I'm not giving you names and verses on that. But it's just, if we follow God, we do it his way, we can have revival. Our nation can have revival, and we can see our way through this. And the last thing is just there's been a lot of fear with this coronavirus thing. And so the other thing, and I'm just, like I said, I can be mean to my sisters. Well, I can just not have a heart and come on. Why, all these people have to wear a mask at work and all this stuff. I'm like, let's just go about our lives, But we need to have compassion, because I don't have a fear of dying. I mean, I don't want to die. I'm 58 years old. I'd like to live till I'm like my parents into my 80s, But I'm not afraid. If I got something like the coronavirus and died, well, okay, I'm going to heaven. So I don't have that fear of dying or the fear of getting sick. But you know what? Other people do, and I really need to have compassion on how to deal with that, and how to present Christ as, here's the answer. If you want peace in your heart, Jesus Christ can give us peace. The Bible says it calls it peace that passeth all understanding. We don't understand the peace of God, but that he can give us that. So we can have that comfort and the peace, the joy, and not have to worry about whether we get sick from something or not. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't take care of ourselves and things like that. But to me, that speaks to me as I need to be a little bit more compassionate and not angry at things like that. So that's just a few areas God's been dealing with me, especially over the past couple months as I've been looking at how we handle things in our nation. So pray for me, pray for our country, that we do have revival, and that we could see God really uplifted and see our church move forward, see our church grow, and many souls saved because of some fear that perhaps people had, not knowing their eternal destiny.